I'm John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Crash Course. In this episode, we're going to take a look at quantitative analysis and see if we can get a better understanding of what is quantitative analysis and how is it different from qualitative analysis, and how can we apply quantitative analysis to better understand the coronavirus outbreak. I'm John Cullen. Welcome to Crash Course.
How you like me now? 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 Remember the time, hey, when I eat you up. You know, yeah, I was alive.
Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Crash Course. In this episode, we're going to take another look at quantitative analysis. I wanted to show you how I get the data that I analyze and how I analyze it. And I'll be using the Apple Numbers application in order to do the analysis. So in this episode, we're going to start at the Center for Disease Control, the CDC in the United States. And I'm on the page that focuses on ages 0 through 18 years. And this data set was updated July 1st, 2021. And let's see, I got here from the CDC's website that shows us weekly updates by select demographic and geographic characteristics, then going to the sex and age section, and then clicking on the button here that says click to download. And when I click on that, it takes me to the page we started at just a second ago. So from here, what I'm going to do is come up to the upper right and click on this area that says export. And when I click on export, I'm going to choose CSV for Excel. It's good enough for my computer, it works. And I get this box that comes in and says you've chosen to, and what do you want to do with it? And I'm going to say just open it with Numbers, and that's the name of the software that comes with the Mac. And that's it. And the data has now been imported into the computer. And you can now see that here. And so from the CDC, we now have the data showing that in the age group of 0 to 4, there's 119 children that have died, all sexes. 5 to 18, that's school-age children, 267. 19 to 44 years old, 16,000 people. Then 105,000, 45 to 64, and on and on. So what I do when I make the charts is I start with this data that I just downloaded from the CDC, and I come up to the top and I choose a pie chart. Now the other thing I can do is I can give myself some space to work with here. And then I can say, okay, so everyone older than 4 is going to equal. I just hit equal, and I just drag all that stuff. And that's everybody older than 4. And then here's everybody older than 18. And so in order to put that in there, I just hit the equal sign. And that's going to be everybody older than 18. And this is everybody older than 44. So I just hit equal and highlight everybody older than 44. Now, what is the blue and what is the green? The green is everyone older. So let's go back, edit our data references until we want to plot the rows. There we go. And that's it. So the 5 to 18 years old, I'm going to move this chart depth slider on the right. And as I move that, it makes this thing a little bit thicker and easier to see. And then I can select the wedge and separate the two wedges. And then if I click on the blue wedge, I can put the label for that blue wedge up here. And I think we want the values all to be numbers, not percentages. Okay. So 267 kids and 594,701,000 people that are older than 18. Okay, so that's how we do this. So I go get the data, and then I chart it in real time, and then I take a picture of it, and I might give it a title to tell people when this was made. But that is school-age kids, 5 to 18, and everyone older than 18, and how we do that analysis. Okay. Now, what else do we see here? We see that they give us sex, and there's not a whole lot more detail beyond the 0 to 18. So for all intents and purposes, this kind of solves. And then we can do everyone older than 44 and everyone younger than 44. Let's do that. So this is everyone from 0 to 44. And then this is everyone from 45. Everyone, let's say 45 and older. And now we're going to chart that. Add chart data. I click on that. And we want to chart everyone 45 and older, and everyone younger than 44, and we tell it to plot the rows as series, and that should do it. Now we come down here, I can make the chart bigger, I turn on the bevels, and I want the wedges to not be percentages, I want them to be numbers. And the label for this green wedge is a little hard to see, so we can move the wedge out, and I can move the label there. And then that's the label for the big portion. Can change the font size, make it a little bigger. And so now you see this is USA. This is from the CDC. We just downloaded this. And what you see is the portion, or the proportion of people younger than 44 that died with coronavirus versus the number of people older than 45 that have died with coronavirus, and how big a proportion of the population that makes up. In this segment, we're going to take a closer look at Worldometer. And Worldometer right now, as of June 30th, is recording 3.958 million deaths. And this is what it looks like on a global basis. What I want to do, though, let's see how to do this. The list of countries is sorted by total deaths. So the United States has the most total deaths with 620,113. Brazil, interestingly, has the second highest number, even though Brazil only has a fraction of the population of India. So even though India has way more people than Brazil, Brazil has more people dead. So we're going to take a closer look at Brazil and India. Mexico, right now, is the country with the fourth most people dead, coming close to 250,000. And then we have Peru, And Peru has the 5th most people dead, but Peru only has 33 million people. So something's weird in Peru that nobody's really been talking about. In other words, Peru has fewer people than California. And there's 192,000 people dead in Peru. If there were 192,000 people dead in California, that would be a really dire circumstance. And Peru doesn't have as many people as California. So the fact that there's 192,000 people that have died in Peru, that is a spectacular number given the population of Peru. And yet we're not hearing any extra attention paid to what is taking place in Peru. Also, we're going to take a closer look at Russia. Russia right now has close to the most new deaths. So if we look at new deaths and we sort by that, India with 957 new deaths, then Russia in second, then Indonesia, South Africa, Mexico, and the United States is down in the 9th place with 111. That's now. If I come up to the top and I click on yesterday and then resort, Brazil had close to 2,000 people die yesterday. India, a little over 800. Russia was 652. And then all the way down here, the United States with 318. And if we keep scrolling, Japan had 35, Canada had 35, this is yesterday. The UK had 23. Saudi Arabia had 15 yesterday. Myanmar had 11 yesterday. Kenya had 9. So Kenya has 3,621 people dead, but Kenya has a population of almost 55 million people. So with 55 million people, they have fewer people dead than New Jersey. How'd they do that? So we'll take a closer look at that. But let's go back up to the top. Let's go to total deaths again. USA. So let's look at the USA. And how is the USA doing? This is daily new cases in the USA. So this was the peak, January 8th, right around the inauguration. The most new cases. And then case counts have been coming down a little hump and have been trailing away. Then we go to daily new deaths, and we see the same sort of thing. The daily deaths appear to have peaked right around the inauguration at about 4,500 a day, a little over 4,000 a day. And now deaths are trailing away as the United States appears to have gone through 3 waves and now appears to be approaching depletion of susceptibles. So that's the United States. Let's go take a look at some other countries. India. Let's see how India is doing. 400,000 people have died so far. Here's daily new cases. So their daily new cases started to really skyrocket in the May timeframe. And now, at the end of June, they're really coming down. So that's good news, that this shape here. And then we go look at deaths in India, and the same thing. Deaths appear to have peaked close to 5,000 a day back in mid-May. And now as we go into July, fewer than 1,000 a day. So that's great news that they're coming off of that. Hopefully this represents depletion of susceptibles. Brazil has the second most, with over 500,000 dead. And this is daily new cases. And this doesn't look good, right? This does not look like it's going away at the moment. Right, that was a week ago, 100,000 a day. That doesn't appear good. And then here's daily new deaths. Well, it looks like it's coming off the peak, but I don't know that I would wager that this is definitely going to trail away. We could see something else here. So let's keep an eye on Brazil. I don't like the way this looks right now. So if you're in Brazil, be careful. Now let's go. We looked at India. Let's go look at Mexico. Mexico has just shy of 250,000 people that have died. And what we see here in Mexico is it looked like they had depletion of susceptibles, and now their cases are picking up again. We don't want to see that. All right, so that's the problem. That's the part you don't want to see, is this uptick. So when it approaches this depletion of susceptibles, you want to see it just go away and trail away, not another uptick. That's not good. And when you look at the original onset and when it got to this level, back in the day, when was that? June the 11th of last year, 5,000 cases a day. And now June the 25th of this year, about 5,000 cases a day. So there's the same caseload per day at about the same time of year. Almost like a seasonality type of thing, and that's in Mexico. Peru. So I mentioned earlier that Peru only has 33 million people. And for a country with 33 million people to have as many dead from coronavirus, again, 33 million people, that's less than California. California is 39 million people. So for Peru to have 192,000 people dead is a very dramatic number. Now, the good news here is that the new cases in Peru appear to be trailing away. Same thing with the deaths, but my goodness. I mean, they took a major hit back in 2020, appeared to go into depletion of susceptibles in December. And then it took back off and they got a double peak. So now it appears it's trailing away, but just the sheer number of people that have died in Peru, given their population being smaller than California, is somewhat stunning. A real outlier as far as deaths per population. Let's look at deaths per million. There you go. So when you sort by deaths per million, Peru jumps to the top of the list with 5,749 people per million that have died. Number 2 is Hungary. Number 3, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then I think that's the Czech Republic is how we would say that. And then a bunch of smaller countries, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and then Brazil. So Brazil's not doing so well. Brazil at 2,411 deaths per million is a rather high number for a big country. Early in the outbreak, we had talked about Belgium. And at one point, Belgium was doing really poorly. And their ratio of deaths per population was very, very high. And you can see that back in the day, they were having a rough go of it. And so we were keeping an eye on Belgium back then. And this was their death count As the outbreak first started, it appeared they went into depletion of susceptibles, and then a second wave. So that's what happened in Belgium. What's interesting sometimes is if we sort the list by population, you'll see some other things that jump out. For example, that China doesn't have 5,000 people dead. Okay, so that should jump out at you. Number two is that Pakistan has way fewer people dead than Brazil. But Pakistan has more people than Brazil. So I would be wondering, what do they do in Pakistan? Why does Pakistan only have 22,281 people that have died in a population of 225 million people? So from a population standpoint, Pakistan is the 5th most populated country on earth, and there's only 22,281 people dead? What did they do in Pakistan? Did they do something there that's different, that worked? Anybody want to talk to them? Looks like they had the same shape. They had that same 3 peak, that W shape. And the number of deaths, again, same kind of thing. It doesn't look remarkably dissimilar to what we've seen. Yet, their death count is significantly lower than Brazil, and they have more people. Same thing with Indonesia, 58,491. It's still a big number, but compared to Brazil, that has fewer people, I'd be wondering, well, what happened in Indonesia? What happened in Pakistan? Then we go to Nigeria. Nigeria still doesn't have 2,500 people dead, but they have only over 200 million in the population. So how do we explain this? What, a year and a half in, Nigeria has fewer people dead than Rhode Island? Is that true? Let me go look at that. Is that hyperbole? So we go to the United States, sort by alphabetical. Here's Rhode Island, and Rhode Island has 2,700 people that have died. So Rhode Island, which is the tiniest state, has more people that have died than Nigeria. Nigeria has over 200 million people. So when we sort by population, and we see that a country like Nigeria, with over 200 million people, only has a little over 2,000 died. Now they have a 2-hump scenario, not the 3-hump scenario. I can't explain it, but recently it looks like they've suffered some deaths. At the end of May, early June, a couple more got logged, but it appears most of the people in Nigeria, they're through the worst of it, it would appear, looking at these charts. But I would be very curious, what did they do in Nigeria with a population of 200 million people, over 200 million, that they ended up with less than 2,500 dead, less than Rhode Island. Same with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the 8th most populated country on earth, and as of July 1st, fewer than 15,000 people have died in Bangladesh. But Bangladesh has a population of 166 million people. So how do we explain this? If the population of Bangladesh is 166 million people, and there's 14,500 that have died in Bangladesh, 22,281 that have died in Pakistan, and not 2,500 in Nigeria. Well, let's go look and see what state in the United States has about 14,500 dead that compares to Bangladesh with 166 million people. Who has 14,500 dead in the USA? So I click on USA, and we're going to scroll down by total deaths. I'm going to sort by total deaths. somewhere between Indiana with 13,850 and Arizona and Massachusetts look like they're neck and neck here with 17,900 dead each. So somewhere in between here is Bangladesh. But Bangladesh has over 160 million people. And Indiana and Arizona are sitting at, 6.5, 7.5 million each, not over 160. So isn't that kind of bizarre that a country with so many people has about the same number of people dead as Indiana, Arizona, and Massachusetts? I mean, to me that's an outlier, right? That's jumping out at me and saying something is strange about this. So that's Bangladesh with 14,500 people, Pakistan 22,281, Ethiopia has 117 million people, and 4,300 have died. A year and a half in, how do we explain that? And again, what is the shape of the outbreak? Are they not counting? They've got over 250,000 cases. People have recovered. It's not like they're not recording it. The shape of the outbreak is, again, the more of the binodal than trinodal, although they do have a little hump here in the middle. Kind of a modified W. So, they're recording deaths. It's just not as many as you would think for a country of this size with this kind of population, right? So, again, Ethiopia has 117 million people, almost 118 million people, and doesn't have 5,000 people dead. Now, Vietnam has 80 people dead and just shy of 100 million in population. 98 million people in Vietnam, and 80 people have died. Similar with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Less than 1,000 people have died, and the population there is 92 million people live in the Congo. Now, Turkey, about 50,000 are dead. But the 50,000 in Turkey, with a population of 85 million, well, let's look at that number. 50,000 people roughly have died in Turkey. And if you go to the United States, you'll see how many people. Let's do it by total deaths. So Texas and New York have about the same number of people that have died as Turkey. But Turkey has 85 million people. Texas has 29. New York has 19.5. So how did they come in about neck and neck with Turkey if Turkey has so many more people? Right, so we looked at the population of Turkey just a second ago. Here's Turkey. 49,000 people died, and the population's 85 million people. So these are the kind of comparisons that I make when I look at these charts. Thailand just passed 2,000 deaths. But Thailand has the same population, give or take, as France. So when we look at Thailand and the population of Thailand, 69 million people, 69.9, just about 70 million. And then we look at the population of France. And France is 65 million, just a few million less than Thailand. But France has 111 people, 111,000 that have died. The UK is sandwiched right in here with 128,000 that have died. Thailand with 2,000, and then Germany with 91. So when we look at this block of countries, Germany, UK, France, and Italy, all with, 90, 91, 128, 111, 127. These are very big numbers of deaths. And then we look at Thailand with 2,000 and Tanzania with 21. Nobody wanted to pick up the phone and call Thailand or ask, how did you guys do this? Nobody wanted to call Vietnam and say, hey, you guys don't even have 100 people dead? Are you doing something different there? And so this is how quantitative analysis can help us ask important questions about the current pandemic. I'm John Cullen. Thanks for joining
us. Underdogs. We work for an independent record company, and it's pretty fucking cool to see that this song has sold as much as it sold. This song is called How You Like Me Now. Come on. Now there was a time when you loved me so. I couldn't be wrong, but now you need to know. See, I've been a bad man, and I'm in need. Yeah. I found a brand new love for this pain, and I can't wait till you see. I can't wait. So how you like me now? 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 Well, how you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? Well, how you like me now? Remember the time, hey, when I eat you up. You know, yeah, I was alive. Oh, baby, must know the kind of line I mean. Hey, so if I was to cheat, oh Lord, would you see right through me? I know if I sing a sad song, would you give it to me? I know, baby. Hey, so how you got me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? But how you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? But how you like me now? Is there